You know that undeniably captivating look of a completely corrupted digital file, right? The image freezes up, the colors start bleeding into each other, and the pixels just kind of drag across the screen like wet paint. Now, we are totally used to seeing this happen when our software crashes, but what if I told you that the exact same phenomenon can happen to your most precious, deeply held autobiographical memories? Today, we're diving into this explainer to explore the absolutely fascinating and slightly terrifying intersection between the intentional corruption of digital data and the intentional corruption of the human mind.
Normally, when we hear the word glitch, we instantly think, well, mistake, something's broken. But in the digital age, visual artists actually saw something incredibly beautiful in the breakdown of technology. Rather than fixing the code when it malfunctions, they purposefully break it. And this creates a whole assembly of visual arts we now call glitch art. They aren't looking at these errors as things to fix. They are totally embracing the intentionality of the breakdown just to see what kind of beautifully chaotic visual realities they can manufacture.
And there is just a massive, sheer variety of ways artists intentionally corrupt data to manipulate a digital reality. I mean, you've got data bending, which is literally going into the raw text code of an image file and just changing the text. Then there's datamoshing. This one's hugely popular, where artists manipulate the predicted and intro-coded frames in a compressed video. Basically, the pixels of one scene bleed right into the motion of the next. You can misalign files by opening, say, a video in an audio program. Or you can even rely on the physical world by short-circuiting hardware or physically scratching film. But the goal is always exactly the same. Take a stable piece of data, introduce a wild error, and create an entirely new, distorted reality. Now, early pioneers didn't exactly have sophisticated software to pull this off. Take Jamie Fenton's 1978 glitch video Digital TV Dinner. For this, artists literally beat the cases of Bally video game consoles with their fists, no joke. By violently pounding the system so the cartridge popped out right while it was trying to write the menu, they completely interrupted the computer's operations. They basically induced memory dump pattern sequences by physically assaulting the machine to scramble its memory files. Talk about hands-on art.
Fast forward to today, and thankfully, we don't have to punch our computers to get this effect. Creating a glitch is as incredibly easy as just opening up Photoshop. If you want to make a retro VHS glitch effect, all you have to do is separate an image into its red, green, and blue channel layers, change the blend mode, and just subtly shift those channels around with your arrow keys. It creates this awesome, aberrated, glitchy scanline effect. But more importantly, it brilliantly illustrates how incredibly quickly and easily we can construct a completely manufactured visual reality from perfectly clean source data. So this brings up a massive question. If it is that incredibly easy to datamosh an image file, we have to ask ourselves, can the ultimate computer, the human brain, be datamoshed too? Think about it. If we can introduce a few lines of bad code to totally distort a JPEG, can we introduce a few pieces of bad information to distort a real live human's memory of their own life? Well, this takes us right into the fascinating realm of psychology, and specifically the work of memory researcher Dr. Julia Shaw. Along with her colleague Stephen Porter, Dr. Shaw set out to answer exactly that question. They wanted to see if they could intentionally corrupt the autobiographical memory files of healthy young adults. And they didn't just want to implant a memory of something minor, like getting lost in a shopping mall as a kid. No, they went big. They wanted to see if they could implant a memory of a highly emotional, super serious event.
In their groundbreaking 2015 study published in Psychological Science, these researchers attempted to plant complete, episodic false memories of committing crimes. Specifically, they tried to convince participants that during their early adolescence, so right around ages 11 to 14, they'd committed theft, assault, or even assault with a weapon, and that this crime actually resulted in them having contact with the police. Now, this is crucial. Keep in mind, the researchers extensively pre-screened all these participants with their caregivers to guarantee absolutely and unequivocally that these events never actually happened. Just like glitch artists editing the underlying code of a picture, the interviewers used some highly suggestive tactics across 3 separate interviews to subtly corrupt the participants' mental hard drives. We can basically think of this as psychological data bending. First, they hit them with incontrovertible false evidence. They'd say things like, hey, your parents actually filled out a questionnaire and said this happened. Then they layered on the social pressure, claiming that most people can retrieve lost memories if they just try hard enough. They asked them to use guided imagery at home. But the real kicker? They wove in real personalized cues, like the name of an actual childhood friend or their real hometown. They deliberately mixed real, clean data with false data to create a highly believable, glitchy hybrid.
Okay, so over the course of just 3 interviews, spaced about a week apart, the results came in, and they revealed a truly staggering number: 70%. Yep, 70% of the participants in the criminal condition were successfully classified as having rich false memories of committing a crime that led to police contact. And guys, they didn't just passively agree that it might have happened. They actively volunteered detailed false accounts of an event that was entirely manufactured in a laboratory. It's wild. And the level of detail in these corrupted memories is truly astonishing. We are not talking about vague feelings or blurry little recollections. Participants actively confabulated incredibly specific details. For the folks who were fed the false memory of an assault, they generated an average of over 12 police-specific details. They were going as far as describing the exact physical appearance of the imaginary police officers who had supposedly apprehended them. Their brains were literally generating brand new, vivid visual data just to fill in the gaps of the glitch. When we put the raw data of these cognitive files side by side, we see something deeply, deeply unsettling. During the interviews, researchers also asked participants to recall a true emotional memory from their childhood, just so they had a solid baseline to compare against. And sure, while true memories did contain slightly more detail, the false memories were terrifyingly rich and complex. They averaged almost 72 unique details. Just think about that for a second. The false files weren't empty outlines, they were densely packed with fabricated information that the brain just completely invented out of thin air. Let's break down the sensory components of these memories. Whether it was visual elements, specific sounds, or the physical feeling of touch, the statistical differences between the real memories and the completely manufactured ones were virtually non-existent. The data points mirror each other almost perfectly. To the brain that's playing the file back, the sensory experience of a fake memory feels practically identical to a real one. It's just incredible. So, why does this happen? How exactly does a totally healthy brain just invent a felony? Well, researchers point to something called the source monitoring framework. Basically, this is the psychological tendency for people to confuse imagination with reality, essentially losing track of where a memory fragment originally came from. Remember how the participants were told to practice guided imagery and visualize these fake events at home? When they did that, they experienced a massive source monitoring error. They completely confused their imagination exercises with real historical data. They essentially took the corrupted frames of their imagination and seamlessly blended them right into the foundational frames of their actual childhood memories. But luckily, the brain does leave behind a tiny little error log, a small clue that something isn't quite right. When looking at all the data, the only major differentiator researchers found between the real and the fake memories was confidence. On a scale of 1 to 7, people inherently felt more secure in their true memories, whereas their confidence dropped pretty significantly for the false ones. So even though their false memories felt vividly real and were packed with rich sensory details, deep down, the participants still harbored some underlying doubt about that corrupted file. Now, obviously making a glitchy VHS effect in Photoshop is a fun, totally low-stakes experiment. But these cognitive glitches, they have massive, incredibly serious real-world consequences, particularly in our legal system. When police use questionable interrogation tactics, tactics that closely mirror the suggestive, high-pressure, false evidence strategies used in this exact study, they can completely inadvertently datamosh a suspect's memory. In fact, the Innocence Project reports that roughly 25% of false convictions are directly attributable to faulty confession evidence. People can and absolutely do confess to and vividly remember crimes they never even committed, all because their mental software was hacked. We all really like to think of our memory as a secure vault, right? Like an unalterable video recording of our lives. But the science shows us that our minds are actually a lot more like open source code, highly susceptible to data bending, suggestion, and complete structural rewrites. So I'll leave you with this. If suggestive manipulation can rewrite our deepest mental files and completely implant a criminal history in just 3 short weeks, how confident are you that your own past hasn't been glitched?